Welcome, my friends, to a new episode of Frameworks. Right, it's been a long time since I last made a video. And again, the reason why I was so busy and a bit away from, because as you know, I'm the CEO and founder of Britishy Training Centre, and we were busy the last few months with setting up Britishy as a CELTA centre for Cambridge Assessment English, and we were successful in doing that. And this is why I had to be away from the channel, but here I am. I'm back, and also back to the playlist of frameworks. And today we're talking about a new framework. We're talking about flipped classrooms. Now, flipped classrooms, what do we mean by this? Let me first tell you about the story of flipped classroom. The story actually started in 1984 with a Russian scientist called Milica Nechkina. This lady was a visionary member of the USSR Academy of Pedagogical Sciences. And Milica said something amazing that we can consider the beginning of what we may call flipped classrooms. So let's actually read this quote that Milica said. Okay, let's see. Let pupils extract new things from autonomous reading of a textbook, which has been created accordingly. Allow them to consider it, then discuss it with a teacher at school and come to a united conclusion. Okay, right. So now it seems that Milica was trying to say, okay, why don't we give students things to read at home, right, away from the classroom, and we will be actually responsible for recommending what they're going to read so that we know exactly what they're doing. But then when they come back to the classroom, they can consider it and discuss it with the teacher. Well, that's an amazing idea. Because in a traditional classroom, what happens, you as a teacher, you introduce the topic, you introduce your language as an English teacher. And then after that, you move from this to what we may call controlled practice tasks, followed by freer practice tasks. But no, according to Milica, she doesn't want this. She was recommending that information transmission should happen out of the classroom. Then when you come to the classroom, it is the time to discuss it with the teacher. And we can say that this was the first seed of flipped classrooms planted those days. Now fast forward to 1993, and we have another personality, Alison King. Now, Alison King published a book called From Sage on the Stage to Guide on the Side. I love the name. From Sage on the Stage to Guide on the Side. And if you think about the name, From Sage on the Stage, because when you are on the stage, you're doing what? You're presenting. So as if she's trying to say, no, we don't want teachers to be presenters anymore. We want presentations to happen out of the classroom. And then she said, from sage on the stage to guide on the side. And on the side here means that it is something that will happen out of the classroom, but under your guidance as a teacher. And this is Alison King. So simply she was trying to say that, hey, let's keep information transmission out of the classroom. And in the classroom, let's focus on practice. Now in 1997, the idea thickened. And this is actually with the Harvard professor, Eric Mazur. Now, Mazur published a book called Peer Instruction, a User's Manual. And when we think about the name of the book itself, it's revolutionary because it says peer in instruction, not teachers in instruction. So it means here that students will be teaching each other. And usually when the students teach each other, usually this happens out of the classroom, not inside the classroom. I know that in so many recent approaches, teachers would try to make students help each other. Yeah. Here the guy is talking about peer instruction as a kind of a movement away from teachers' presentations inside the classroom. Now again, those three characters influenced a lot what we call today flipped classrooms, starting with the Russian lady, Milica Nitschkina, and then we moved after that to Alison King, and finally to Eric Mazer. Now, someone might say, Shadi, okay, this is lovely talk, but we want now the practical side. As an English teacher, how do I make use of flipped classrooms? How do I implement this methodology? How can I use this framework? And I would say there are stages, and count with me 5 main stages. So let's say that stage number 1 is that you decide on the nature of your flipped classroom. And when I say that, I mean how much information do you want to give to your students out of the classroom? And how much do you need to keep for the classroom? That's a very important decision. Also, you need to think about this information given out of the classroom. In which form do you want this information to be given? Are you going to record audios with your voice? Are you going to show them videos? Are you going to send them articles or chapters from books? So you need to decide on that as well. Now, so step number 1, flexibility and environment preparation. You have to see how much flexible you will be and what kind of environment do you want, the learning process to happen. And again, thinking about the environment, you can put videos on your own LMS, Learning Management Systems. Okay? Well, if you don't have your own LMS, you can use your YouTube channel for showing videos to your students. You can use your Facebook group. You can use your Facebook page. Now social media platforms where you can display work for students to read or to check or to listen. They're amazing. They're everywhere and free to use. So not a problem at all, but you need to decide on that first. So stage number 1 is flexibility and environment preparation. Now, once you're done with that and you prepared everything and you put that book there in the library online so that students can access it, when everything is ready, then we go to stage number 2 and we call it the asynchronous online lesson. And in this stage, you send your students a link through which they can find a video to watch, something to read, something to listen to. And we call it asynchronous because students can access this at any time. So they can watch this video in the morning, in the evening, whenever they're free, which is the beauty of this stage, is because students do not have to attend at a specific time. They can do it whenever they're free. And this is the stage where information transmission happens. This is where you give information to students. Okay, this is what used to be your presentation and your teaching in traditional classrooms. And again, let me give you an example. Imagine that you as an English teacher, you want to teach the second if conditional. Then what you need to do is to prepare a video for you explaining the usage of the second if conditional and the meaning, pronunciation and form. Or give your students well-written material about the second if conditional so that they can read. Or maybe an audio, whatever. Presentations with videos, anything you want. But you have to be careful when you're preparing this because you don't want it to be too difficult so students are frustrated. Okay? It needs to be suitable for the level, and also think about the fact that you're not there to explain and clarify. So make sure that is simple and well clarified. Once the second stage is over, which is the asynchronous online lesson, we move to the stage of synchronous online discussion. And we call it synchronous because you as a teacher, you have to be there. Now, what do we mean by online discussions? Now, students watched the video or read the material, at their own pace. Now, they finished reading, they finished studying. Now, you give them a specific time where you meet with them on a social media platform, maybe a group discussion on WhatsApp or any other chat application, and then you receive the questions about the videos. So some students say, oh, I didn't understand that point about 1 to 3. Oh, that point was not clear for me. And then you start helping them and clarifying for them. So one student in the chat box might say something like, Shadi, in the video, you said sometime, if I was, and sometimes you said if I were, which one is correct? And you answer that. And you clarify that. So the first stage is flexibility and environment preparation. The second stage is asynchronous online lesson. The third stage is synchronous online discussion. Then we come to the fourth stage and we call it in-class application. And in this stage, you meet your students in a class. And I mean by in a class with a virtual class or a face-to-face class at the school. It doesn't matter. But what matters is that in this class, what you will do is practice, practice, practice. So you start, for example, with control practice, and then after that you move to freer practice. And this makes your class very, very practical. So students would come to read questions about the second conditional, control practice question, and then the answer. Questions that would target meaning, questions that would target form, questions that would target pronunciation. And then after that, freer practice, freer. So a lot of practice. Why? Because all the time in the classroom is for the practice part. And this is also the beauty of the flipped classroom framework. And finally, you move to what we call the final stage, which is formative assessment. Because assessment in flipped classrooms is very important. Why? Very important. For one main reason. When the presentation happened, the teacher was not there. You just discussed with them some stuff, on chat applications. So now formative assessment is very important in order to see whether students really understood the lesson and got the idea, and then you're sure whether to move on or to review something. So it's very, very, very important. So my friends, 5 main stages in the flipped classroom framework. The first one is flexibility and environment preparation. The second stage is asynchronous online lesson. The third stage is synchronous online discussion. The fourth stage is in-class application. And the final stage is formative assessment. Now let's move to the advantages of the flipped classroom framework. And I would say the first advantage is individualized learning. And what do I mean by individualized learning? Think about it, my friends. Think about it. You watch the video at your own pace. If you don't understand a part, you go back and play it again. Well, you can't do that in a face-to-face lesson. Because in a face-to-face lesson, okay, you don't restart your teacher one more time. And some students are too shy to ask. But in this one, okay, you do things at your own pace. So if there is a weak student, he can play it over and over and over again until he gets it. And at the same time, strong students don't feel bored, because if they watch it, they get it from the first time. They don't have to listen, okay, to it over and over again because of weaker students. So that's an advantage. A second advantage is active engagement. Of course, it encourages active engagement, because look, when the students come to the classroom, it's all about practice, 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 practice. So they work in pairs, they talk, and then the teacher, gives feedback, and then they work, they do an activity, they check in pairs, and then the teacher gives feedback, and then they work in groups, they discuss things, and then the teacher gives delayed feedback. Amazing. Lots of engagement, of course. Another advantage is increased interaction. And of course, we know that increased interaction builds better rapport between the students and teachers, and the students and the students. Because when there is a lot of practice, then there is a lot of interaction. And that is wonderful for the atmosphere of English language learning. Another advantage is application of knowledge. There is a lot of time for application. So no way a student would say that, yeah, he introduced the idea, but I don't know how to use it. This is not there, because there is a lot of usage, a lot of practice. Now, when it comes to the disadvantages, the first disadvantage that we can think of is technological dependency. Someone might say, Shadi, how can technology be a disadvantage? When it fails you, brother, when it fails you, it can be a disadvantage. When the students keep, calling you, I don't know, I can't log in, the video is not, it doesn't work. And then, oh, bloody hell. And then you have to fix the password problems. The PDF doesn't work, it doesn't open. The Word document doesn't open in my computer because I have another Word version, and all these problems start jumping at your face. So technological dependency, that's a disadvantage. Another disadvantage is preparation time. It takes a lot of time to prepare an educational video. You put a lot of effort and a lot of time. You might write a lesson plan in 1 hour, half an hour, 2 hours if you're a novice teacher. But it can take you a whole day to produce a good educational video. It takes a lot of time if you don't want to give your students, some rubbish videos. So that's another disadvantage. A third disadvantage is potential lack of accountability. You give your students a video to watch, but then they're lazy and they watch nothing. And they waste your time. You ask them to read something and then they read nothing, and that's a problem, because now they come to the classroom for practice. What practice? They haven't watched anything. They haven't learned anything. So they come to the classroom, what is that? Can you explain it, teacher? And then, now that's a problem, because, you prepared a lot of activities for in-class application, and now some lazy students who didn't do the job, they want you to repeat everything. Okay? So that's another disadvantage. One last disadvantage is resistance to change. And especially with, some older learners, some people resist change. They don't want to use, platforms or watch videos, on YouTube. They say, I want the teacher. I want to see the teacher in flesh. They say that. I want to see him, right? I want to listen to the teacher. I hate doing things online. Some people are like that. I meet a lot of them. You say, like, once you start talking to them about an online course, no, online courses, no, I will lose my focus. And they keep coming up with all sorts of things. So some people resist change. They don't want it. And that's also another disadvantage. So my friends, Flipped Classroom Framework. It's an amazing framework. Very technological, very modern, wonderful. Someone might say, Shadi, do we use it all the time? I would say I'm always against using one framework all the time because we don't want our students to get bored. We need to change things every time. So the more frameworks the better you are, and the less bored your students are. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Frameworks. This was Shadi Abu Yusuf. See you again, my friends. Bye-bye.